Morning guys, thanks for joining me. I'm going to have a crack at doing Jenny Brown's Point today. Now we started out near the small village of Silverdale, which is roughly about 10 miles up the coast from Morecambe in Lancashire. It's going to take us roughly about 2 hours to do the walk, and it's going to be a distance of around 4 miles. So it's a circular route and plenty to see. So let's get cracking. I'll bring you guys back later. Now you do have to watch your footing here guys, because this coastline is very rocky and rugged, and if you're doing it on a day like today, it's very wet and slippy underfoot. There's a lot of algae growing on these rocks, and I've got some decent boots, but even with those on, it's still treacherous, so you do have to watch yourself. As you can see guys, we're coming up on Jenny Brown's Point, which is basically like a stone pier heading out onto Wharton Sands. It's split in two parts. It looks to me like the sea's washed some of it away, but it comes out about 200 feet from the shore at the beginning and then goes out at least a mile, I would say, out onto Wharton Sands, right up to where there's water flowing in the estuary permanently. As you can see, the coastline here is positively prehistoric. Just got to be careful coming across the sands, because even if you only venture out a few feet onto that wet area there, your feet sink in a couple of inches. You've just got to keep moving. I wouldn't recommend bringing young children on this walk for that very reason. I mean, also the rocks are very slippery with the green seaweed and algae on them. See if we can show you what it's like to walk on this stuff. If I stand still, you can sort of see how it gets a grip of you. Best to keep moving. You tend to come across a lot of these like little coves, which lots of pebbles have been washed up into, but the great places to get up and get away from the wet area. You can have maybe a break and a sandwich or something. Here you get a bit more of a clearer view of the Jenny Brown's Point. I'll make my way down here onto this vantage point. Looks like a great place to have a look at the view. Walduck's wall is all that remains of an ambitious Victorian land reclamation project. Construction started in 1877, but due to the forces of nature and spiralling costs, the project was abandoned in 1879. The wall was hidden by shifting sands for nearly 100 years, until it was revealed again after a powerful storm in 1977. Just beyond the end of the wall is the site of the matchless tragedy of September the 3rd, 1894. The Matchless, a pleasure yacht, set sail from Morecambe to Grange-over-Sands, carrying 33 passengers and the boat's skipper. As it neared Jenny Brown's Point, a sudden gust of wind caused the boat to capsize. Sadly, 25 people lost their lives. A retired sea captain, Captain Mutter, was hired by Walduck to oversee the building of the wall. On the morning of the 29th of March 1879, Captain Mutter was carrying out his usual daily inspection of the works. A passing horse swung its head, catching Mutter, and he fell under the wheels of the cart it was drawing. The cart tipped its load of limestone onto Mutter. He sadly died 4 days later from his injuries. Now, as we leave Jenny Brown's Point behind us, we continue our journey south along the Lancashire coastline. This is what you've got to be careful of, guys, these deep gullies that fill up first with the incoming tide. The tide comes in very quick around here, it's notorious for it. You can see how fast that water's flowing. The tide is actually coming in now. I think high tide's due in about 3 hours time. But you can just see how swift that current's moving. You can hear the cries of the oyster catchers. Now here, guys, the coastline sweeps round into Lakeland Moss, which is a well-known nature reserve. We got our first glimpse of the copper smelting chimney. What a lovely spot for a house. Bet that gets battered by the wind and weather. And probably the waves on one or two occasions. This is all that remains of the old sheep bridge. The bridge allowed access over the gully to the sea-washed grazing lands beyond. This chimney, built around 1780, is all that remains of a copper smelting furnace that was operational here up until around 1788. And now, as we leave the chimney behind us, we continue our journey eastwards. Now when you get to this point, guys, I wouldn't recommend going up there because it's rock faces like this which are very, very slippy and very mossy. So I tried it out first and it was really treacherous, so I definitely wouldn't recommend that. I'd go this way instead, which is a little bit more boggier, but at least you're not going to slide, because it gets a bit more severe as it goes along that slope. Can I make it? Just. See what I mean? You're kind of walking on an angle all the time. You can see how wet it is. I bet it's like that most of the time. If you've got some decent boots on, it should be able to cope with this. So that footpath heads out over Leighton Moss Bird Reserve. So we're going to cut across to the left and head more inland back towards Silverdale. So we've got a bit of a rise to cope with here, but this is the hilliest part of the walk. I think at its maximum elevation it's about 265 feet high above sea level. Quaint little gate. challenge at the end. Ooh. Cut through this hole in the wall. Shall I go through the gate or squeeze through here? I'm going to go for the tight squeeze. Yeah, I'm not as thin as I used to be. Don't know if you guys can see that there bit in the distance, centre. That's onside knot. Just keep straight on here, guys. Don't go through that gate. Take a right again. Cut across the road here, guys, and then head down the other path that's just across the road. Another tight squeeze. A nice woodland stretch, this. Interesting rocky outcrop there. Oh, quite a challenge here. Be ultra careful here on these wet rocks. Particularly bad today. Looking back on the route we've just taken. Woodwell is an historic natural limestone spring, and up until 1938 was one of the main sources of water for the people of Silverdale. How quaint is that? It's lovely, isn't it? Hello. You all right?
Thank you.
See if we can get up to it. I don't know if you can hear that, there's a foghorn in the background. Well, that's it guys, we're coming up on the finish of the walk. I was planning on cutting across the bay, but the tide's in, so unfortunately I had to come back across the tops from the cave, but not to worry. So we've taken about 2.5 hours and we've travelled around 4 miles. It's been a good day for it really, a bit overcast, but at least it's dry. It's a good walk, I'd recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend it for young families because it's a bit slippy on the rocks and a bit dangerous for kids, and plus there's some high bits that you've got to scramble, especially when you're coming through those woods. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon for another adventure. Bye for now.